Today is the first day of a multi-day prolonged stretch of severe weather where dangerous storms capable of large hail, gusty winds, and some tornadoes are possible. We have many days of dangerous storms ahead with high coverage of severe weather, high intensity, and certainly the potential for impacts as we go through Friday into the weekend. We also have a second storm we're tracking that'll bring even more severe weather next week. As all this rain comes, there's also some flooding concerns that is expected to gradually increase over time. Today is Friday, March 6th, and today in the world of weather, let's dive in to break down the risks. Here's the radar as of late Thursday. By the time we're watching this Friday morning, most of this will have already cleared into a more broader line of cells, but we do have a few supercells. This is what I talked about in my last video where a few of these storms pop up into West Texas moving through Oklahoma. We did have a PDS tornado warning, a particularly dangerous situation tornado warning, which means some of these storms were strong. By the time we're waking up on Friday morning, this will broaden out into more of a general risk of rain and storms with wind damage focusing more of our main threat. This is all ahead of our parent trough and low pressure system that's still out over the west. As this moves eastward tonight into tomorrow, more storms and more strong storms are expected. Just wanted to take a cool look real quick at the satellite Thursday evening. You can see these supercells really clearly. Look at these big plumes of clouds. These are caused by only one storm. This one storm is making this huge thunderstorm cloud from these supercell anvils. All of this is raising to the northeast, and again it'll consolidate into more of a general line. But it's cool sometimes to just take a look from satellite because these are very big and powerful cells. Alright, again this recording is Thursday evening, so by the time we get to Friday, slight tweaks to this is possible, but the Storm Prediction Center does have an enhanced risk of severe weather, a level 3 out of 5 for portions of Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas. These enhanced risk days, we get a handful of them every year, but it's the Storm Prediction Center signaling that some higher end coverage and impact severe weather is possible tomorrow. So anyone at all shaded needs to watch out, but especially from this corridor from Kansas City to Topeka in Kansas, all the way down to Fort Smith, Arkansas, north of Dallas, McAllister, Tulsa, you need to particularly watch out for damaging winds, large hail, and even a few tornadoes. Going a little bit more in depth with the threats, we can see the tornado risk here in this green, brown, and yellow shade. Now the colors indicate confidence and coverage, so if you're in the brown and yellow colors, that means you have higher chances and higher coverage of severe storms. If you're in the green color, it means severe storms aren't as certain, but it is still a possibility, even though it'll be a little more isolated. What these black hatch lines mean in this bigger area, that's where the atmosphere is capable of producing a few stronger tornadoes, potentially EF1 to EF2 plus in strength. So really the highlight of the tornado threat will be from eastern Oklahoma into western Arkansas, including Fort Smith, Fayetteville in Arkansas, McAllister, Oklahoma, Bella Vista. All these areas need to be on the alert for not just decent coverage of tornadoes, but potentially a few stronger tornadoes. In particular, we are also looking at a hail threat. The storm mode will be a little bit supercellular in nature, that's why we have that tornado threat and hail threat, and the enhanced risk is really over this red area where the highest confidence for coverage and intensity of hail is present. But even all the way down into central Texas, into Wisconsin, again, we have a large area where large hail, 1 to 2 inches, and in the hatched area, even 2 inches plus of hail is possible. Let's time it all out. This is what the radar will likely look like as we're waking up Friday morning. This model won't be perfect, but I think it gives a pretty good representation of what the radar might look like. The cluster of supercells that we're tracking has now moved into Kansas and Missouri, is weakening, likely more just general rain, claps of thunder possible. Through the morning hours on Friday, you can see the clock here at the top of your screen. Most of the rain will stay sub-severe and just general storms. This is some beneficial rain, especially considering the drought. Most of it stays sub-severe until about noon. As we get into the afternoon, that's when the atmosphere starts misbehaving. The trough of low pressure starts approaching with the cold front nearing, and zooming in we can see a few of these supercellular storms are starting to form. So this is a corridor that we're watching most closely where that enhanced risk is present. The biggest threat is for these isolated supercells to form and move northward, and as they do so, very large hail and tornadoes are possible, especially if any of these cells stay discrete. So we can see this axis of potential supercells at 5 o'clock on Friday. Very large hail, potentially gusty winds all the way from Omaha, but especially from Kansas City into Tulsa and portions of western Arkansas. Again, anyone in that enhanced risk that we mentioned earlier, you need to be particularly aware on your Friday evening commute. Further to the north though, we're going to get some more general storms moving through, possibly some storms moving through Chicago Friday evening. What's going to happen is we're going to form a line of storms as the evening progresses. So initially, these supercells, the threat is mainly hail and tornadoes, again across this corridor over the southern plains. This shifts into more of a linear structure of storms, and as it does so, the threat changes over into winds. So this is where gusty winds are the main concern as the line moves through, and potentially a few quick embedded spin-up tornadoes, but nowhere near as strong as the earlier supercell tornadoes could be. It looks like we'll get kind of two segments of the line of storms. The first segment will move into the Midwest, so another round of storms into Chicago, Wisconsin, more heavy rain, but also severe winds, and again, quick spin-up tornadoes are possible. This will likely be Friday evening into overnight, so this is 11 p.m., and most of this will come when we're sleeping. Further down to the south, we'll have the second segment moving into Missouri and Arkansas. As this moves further east, we can kind of see this back line catching up. This is the actual cold front, so some more storms are possible along it, with kind of just a messy slosh of rain all across this portion of the country. The storms will gradually weaken as we head toward dawn, especially as we lose a lot of the daylight, but even so, some wind threats will carry on as this moves eastward into portions of Kentucky, Tennessee, and then another cluster of storms will be forming toward Texas, Oklahoma, and North Texas. All along the big cold front, you can see some drier and cooler areas starting to push in behind the storms. This segues well into our severe storm threat on Saturday, so it's not over on Friday. Friday is just the beginning. Saturday, we have a large marginal risk of severe weather all the way from Texas up into New York and Pennsylvania. And notice, it'll be our cold front that's advancing southeastward. That's what's causing the severe weather. Two particular hotspots the Storm Prediction Center is noting though for slightly higher confidence and coverage. One from central Texas into Louisiana, portions of Arkansas and Mississippi, and the other a pocket off near the Ohio Valley into portions of the Great Lakes, from western Pennsylvania into Ohio, West Virginia, and portions of New York, including Buffalo. On your day Friday, there could be some upgrades. The Storm Prediction Center is particularly noting across central Texas, very large hail is possible, so we could have an upgrade to an enhanced risk, and then even more areas along this line. As confidence increases, the Storm Prediction Center increases the category. So I wouldn't be surprised if some slightly higher colors show up as we get closer to the event. On your day Saturday, everything will just be moving southeastward along the line. So fortunately, we don't have as much of a supercell threat, which limits the risk for some strong tornadoes. It'll just be more general wind, especially along this big line of storms, very expansive all the way from Texas into Kentucky and Tennessee. Notice across central Texas, this is where the Storm Prediction Center is particularly highlighting that hail risk. So areas near Austin along the I-35 corridor, we could be looking at very large hail in isolated spots, potentially 2 to 3 inches plus. That other area that was highlighted is across portions of the Great Lakes, where some gusty winds are possible in some of these storms. So those are the two highlighted areas, but just a general mess of storms, any of which could be strong to severe, will be moving southeastward throughout the day. So it'll be a very wet day for many of us on Saturday. Storms might be at their peak intensity as we head into the afternoon and evening. Look at this. This is some pretty nasty storms potentially hitting San Antonio, all the way across Louisiana, Mississippi. This right here could be a severe segment with gusty winds, small hail, a few embedded tornadoes possible. So just be weather aware anywhere in that severe weather risk on Saturday. All of this will start moving to the east. We'll get a quieter day on Sunday, especially across the central and northern US. So anywhere behind the front, we'll get some briefly cooler air moving in, which will feel nice, some drier air. It's not only just the severe weather we're tracking, we're also tracking some flood concerns over the next few days with these repeat rounds of rain. On Friday, we have a slight risk of flooding, a 2 out of 4 from Dallas into Fort Smith, this same corridor that was in the enhanced risk for severe weather. Multiple supercells, multiple training clusters of rain. That definitely leads to the possibility for some flash flooding. Saturday, you can see that risk kind of expands all along that cold front, with a particular emphasis though from Austin into Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi. Even beyond that though, on Sunday, we still have a low end flood threat across portions of the south, and then on Monday, the flood threat refocuses over Texas, and will actually increase again on Tuesday as our second storm system approaches. More on that in a minute though, but just from this first storm system, here's a rainfall we can expect. Anywhere in blue, 1 to 2 inches, but it's these pockets of purple and red where we're concerned for the potential for a few spots of 2 to 3 inches, isolated 4 inches. Especially if we get training thunderstorms, multiple thunderstorms over the same areas, we could get isolated spots higher than 4 inches. So this is why we have that risk of flash flooding. Just be aware for some streets flooding, maybe low water crossings, no widespread river flooding expected, but a lot of rain is coming just across this general eastern 2/3 of the country. Alright, that was only storm number 1. Storm number 2 will be coming next week, so we have even more severe weather on the way, and this could be potentially significant as well. The Storm Prediction Center is already highlighting a slight risk in this yellow shade of severe weather on Tuesday, so it's pretty rare for the Storm Prediction Center to issue these risks this far out. This means that confidence is pretty high that more storms and potentially strong storms are on their way. This extends from central Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, the same spots that are under the severe weather this weekend. These additional storms don't only also bring severe weather, but also flood risks as more and more rain is expected. Timing it out, it's still a little preliminary because we're still a bit far out, but we can get a general idea of the rain. Sunday and Monday will be generally drier. A few storms will be rebuilding across portions of the south. Heading later though, on Tuesday, we can start to see the atmosphere re-energizing, and that's when storms start expanding further north. This is where some strong to severe weather is possible. And then on your day Tuesday into Wednesday, particularly strong storms over Oklahoma, Texas, across that slight risk zone, even further south. I expect even more severe weather concerns even beyond Tuesday as to Wednesday before our low finally kicks out and we start getting a break. Rain starts clearing to the east late week, but it'll take a while to do so, so several more days of storms are ahead next week. Again, we'll refine the details as we get closer, but just a heads up, our stormy weather pattern, at least for the next 6 to 7 days, is not ending anytime soon. Looking a little bit longer term, there are signs for a pattern change as we head into the middle of March. You'll notice some cooler air will start infiltrating some of the eastern US, east, while warmth builds in the west. So kind of a flip-flop of what we're dealing with right now. Also a flip-flop in precipitation. We can see some drier air spreading across much of the south and western US, while the north will generally stay wetter. We could also have some snow in portions of the far north as some of that slightly cooler weather comes in. So the stormy weather pattern with severe weather flooding, that'll continue at least until the middle of next week, but looking a little bit beyond that, we could get a pattern shift to a little bit more quieter weather, at least briefly. We are heading deeper into severe weather season though, so increasing storm chances will likely come as we head deeper into March. So that's all for today in the world of weather. Again, multiple rounds of storms expected. Dangerous day Friday, especially in that enhanced risk, but even on Saturday along that cold front, even more storms coming. And then we have that second storm system to track next week. In the coming days, I'll have more videos providing updates as we get them with each storm threat. So make sure to stay tuned here to the latest. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead and on track of the weather. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you all stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.